Hello everyone. It's James again. And today I want to talk about something very important. But before we do, I want to again thank you all for your support over the years with this channel. It really means a lot to me. And for those that are newly donating on Patreon, and those that have been donating for a long time on Patreon, I just want to let you know, your help is truly appreciated. And the hope is, possibly, in the next year, hopefully censorship and shadow banning will be a thing of the past. So we can reach even more people. Who knows? We might be in the same boat as we are in now. And if so, we keep moving forward, doing the best that we can. But, possibly we might have been able to hang on long enough, and stand back up to see the day where this information can reach even more people. And all of you, no matter if you are donating or not, have been a part of that, of hanging on to be where we are right now. So thank you. With that said, let's talk for a moment about narcissist mothers. You see, when I first started this channel, as a nice female subscriber pointed out in her comment on one of my recent videos, and you know who you are, and thank you for your comment. She mentioned she was so happy that even though it wasn't popular to do so at the time, I was speaking out and about female narcissists. I would also talk about narcissism in a general sense, regarding both male and female narcissists. But I would also make a point about addressing the problem regarding female narcissists. And even then, there would always be someone that would say, you know, men can be narcissists too, you know. Or, all of the information states that there are more men that are narcissists than women. To which I would reply, most of those studies were from prison studies. As most narcissists, both male and female, rarely if ever seek help. So really the main people they can find to fill those studies are those that have committed crimes. And this is going to tie into what we are going to talk about today. But you see, I and a few others more than a decade ago were saying, narcissism is 50-50 regarding men and women. And possibly with a 1 to 2% edge towards women. And the reason why isn't because women are somehow worse than men or vice versa. It's because society openly encourages, celebrates, incentivizes, and rewards female narcissism and evil behavior. And almost like a revolving door, one female narcissist after another is let go and given the benefit of the doubt for some of the most horrible acts. So much so, the female narcissist believes they can literally do anything they want, and they won't get into any kind of trouble. And the reason why they believe that is solely because they are a woman. And they know that women in today's society are seen as victims first and abusers last. And why is this the case? Feminism. You see, a wonderful woman I've spoke about many times before, and I spoke a lot about in the early start of my channel, was Erin Peetsy. She was the first woman to create a battered women's shelter in England. And shortly upon helping these women, she noticed a great many of these women were just as abusive, and in some cases more abusive than the men they were having issues with. Now Erin was always clear that there was indeed cases of women that were clear victims, just like there were men that were clear victims. But there were tons more cases of women and men in the same household that were both extremely dysfunctional and that were abusing one another equally. So what she set out to do was to work with both the woman and the man, to help them both figure out why they were this way, which usually was a result of their dysfunctional childhood. And she would do what she could to try to help both woman and man become better members of society and to break the generational curse of abuse that likely followed their families for many years. But guess what? That's not what the feminists she belonged to wanted. Their goal was to cover up the fact that women could abuse at the same rate as men, and to paint men only as abusers. And this ideology and movement was funded to the tune of billions of dollars. It was on almost every television show. In nearly every movie. Where society was literally brainwashed. That this is how things were. Forget about seeing Susan Smith on the news for deleting her children and blaming it on a fake man that didn't exist. No matter if we see news stories like this. Men are still the abusers and women are still the victims. And something that I will talk about in another video. When Sylvester Stallone was interviewed recently by his daughters. And for those of you that know me, his Rocky character really got me through some tough times as a child. But it turns out, Stallone was raised by a narcissist mother. And a narcissist father. And I believe that's why a great many of us could relate to the pain in these movies. Because only someone that went through what we went through could write such scenes that really grabbed us and made us feel the same way we did when we were kids going through what we went through. But in this interview, he was asked by his daughters, when he wrote or talked about early on his career about his abusive upbringing, why did he only mention his father? And his daughters wanted to know why didn't he talk about his mother? And he said that he thought he would be seen as someone complaining and people wouldn't understand. And that's what I've been saying for more than a decade now. You can't dare say anything about your mother. Because if you do, even if your mother is in the wrong, you are a bad child and ought to be ashamed of yourself. And guess what? Newsflash. Women that are narcissist know this fact. It's their ace they pull to be able to live life on easy mode and do what they want and get what they want. Now why is this dynamic so dangerous? Well, just look behind me. Tiffany Lucas was an unfit mother. Where the father of one of her children begged the court to give him custody. Why? Because she was doing drugs. And selling herself, I guess, is the most polite way of saying it. The other child that was fathered by another man, I believe, passed away a few years back. And the big brother of this small child along with the family would call Child Protective Services on her over and over again. And again beg the system allow them to have custody of these children to give them a loving and stable home. Well, that didn't happen. And one day, this monster mother, with a weapon in her hand, one that goes pew pew, she entered these little boys' rooms and deleted them from planet Earth. How can this be? There are tons of pictures of all of them. Having so much fun. Well, something I've talked about towards the beginning of my channel. And some of you might remember. And that's why does the narcissist want to take so many pictures? Not just with themselves but with you as a child. It's so they can show these pictures to everyone they know and don't know. To prove they are a good mother. So if any word comes out from you or anyone else about what is really going on in that home, you won't be believed. How dare you speak against your mother that way? I see she just bought you a new train set. How dare you go against your mother? She got dressed up with you and took you out to go trick-or-treating. It's all a smoke screen. It's all a smoke screen. But you see, we do not hold these female narcissists accountable until something like this happens. We turn on the news. And we see female teacher after female teacher doing God knows what. Yet, there are these angry feminists screaming down with the patriarchy. Screaming how all men are evil and abusers. Many of them talk about how it should be okay to be violent against men. And they were the ones that tried to think about excuses when a so-called mother ends the lives of her children. If a man does it, he's a monster. If a woman does it, she was stressed and or mentally sick and didn't know what she was really doing. You see, what feminists have been saying for decades now, is they want the right to end the lives of the men that are around them and that are in their lives. And they also want the right to do this with their children. Because if they truly cared about the kids in these scenarios, they would have rethought their stance about things a long time ago. But they haven't. They just keep doubling down. And no matter when these cases happen, it goes back to business as usual. Men are terrible. Men are the problem. Instead of looking at evil for what it truly is. This so-called mother Tiffany Lucas might not have had the chance to do the evil that she did. If the courts could have listened to what was going on, instead of following the template that was given to them by feminist groups so many decades ago. Oh, that's right. You didn't know? Family law operates under the lies that feminists sold to society decades ago. And that lie is the mother, no matter if she is crazy and has a drug problem, is always the best person for the child to be with. And the sad truth is this crime was likely a narcissist discard gone horribly wrong. Horribly wrong in the mind of Tiffany Lucas. We've talked about Susan Smith. And it came out that she deleted her children because she wanted to be with the man she was cheating on her husband with. A man that was rich and that didn't want children. Then we talked about the Ukrainian woman that lives in Florida that threw her child around like a rag doll. All because he asked to go to the park. And she said she was just under stress and it was her first time doing such a thing. However, I think, and I could be wrong, but I think she felt her child was holding her back from partying it up and snagging a rich man in Florida. And though it was terrible that young boy was beaten, I do hope there will be a careful eye placed upon that woman so she won't dare end his life. And I think the same is likely true in this case. She only took custody of these children because she used them as a human life shield. To be able to hide behind being a struggling single mother. And all of the free societal things such a single mother can possibly get. But at the same time she probably resented her children because she didn't want to be a mother. She wanted to be partying with rich guys and getting high. And her wants and desires for the drug lifestyle won out and she ended the lives of her children. As a way of discarding them. Much like a narcissist discards anyone they have no more use for. But instead of walking away from them, she deleted them from planet Earth. And in her drug mind, she probably thought she could explain it all away. And both male and female narcissists think this way. If they have gotten away with so much their entire lives, they begin to become delusional with what they can now get away with. So they lose their impulse control and become psychopathic. And they end the lives of others and become stunned they are for the first time in their entire lives are being held accountable. And again, why is this the case for female narcissists? Feminism. Feminism wanted a perfect world where they could do stuff like this and not be held to account. Because in the words of Erin Pizzi, most of the women in the early feminist movement were very dysfunctional and very violent. And it appears they wanted to create a world where they could use that violence in a one-way scenario and then be believed as the victim. And too many of these cases are becoming the norm. Too many. It's time we start looking at people and evil for what it is. And when individuals are speaking in a way that only this type of person can be violent and that person over there can't be, we just need to stop listening to them. Because these are the people, believe it or not, that oddly enough have shaped society and relationships and families and how society operates. I know. Pretty messed up, right? Crazy people dictating to the rest of us on how we are supposed to live. My heart goes out to the family of these two innocent children. And below you can click on the link and see and hear their impact statements. I do hope for a change. Not just for this channel like I said at the beginning of this video, but where we see narcissism for what it is. And no longer let so-called mothers hide behind that title of mother and use their children as shields. Simply because society says that's how it's supposed to be. All because some crazy nut jobs told us so. Well, that's all I have for now. I do hope your day is blessed. And until next time. Bye for now. And be good to yourself.